And let's share the screen. All right, so thank you for attending. This is the first session of the Emergency Services Professional Development series that I'm trying to put on. It's right now I have 4 primary series that we're going to work through each Friday night with some special guests coming in on the evenings that I am unavailable to present. So far, we have the executive director for the National Association for Search and Rescue will be coming in, I believe, September. But tonight we are going to talk about leadership in emergency services. All right, so this one is a 12-week series. So we'll go through 11 leadership principles, discuss each one per week. And we're going to do a deep dive in these and how each of these leadership principles pertain to an emergency services officer or someone participating in emergency services. These leadership principles do not obviously only pertain to emergency services, but since the program is focused on professional development of emergency service personnel, then that's where our focus is going to remain. This week, we are talking about know yourself and seek self-improvement. So that'll be the main topic for this evening. The goal is to have a guided discussion. So if other people end up joining, it'll be a more interesting conversation. Or once these videos are posted, individuals can then have discussions back and forth. And we'll have to obviously deal with any trolls or other individuals that may comment in there, but remember, we're trying to be professional and keep the conversation professional. So this week is know yourself and seek self-improvement. I decided to start off with this one because we are doing a professional development series. And this is probably the most or one of the most important leadership principles out there. And since you're joining in either here live or watching the videos later, then you are already sort of looking at this task or this principle. All right, so the first thing that we want to look at when evaluating this leadership principle is to evaluate yourself by using leadership traits and determine your strengths and weaknesses. So we're going to eventually look at all 11 of these leadership principles. But what you want to know is what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? I know some of my strengths and weaknesses are I can be somewhat abrasive or forward with individuals, and that can be off-putting at times. People do not like, I guess you could consider a bluntness or matter-of-fact speaking. And especially because we are working within a volunteer organization, individuals may want a softer approach or more diplomatic approach. And coming from a military background, that is not something that I've had to deal with, or we didn't support sort of that type of leadership. It was short, simple, direct task, get it done, instant obedience to orders type of mindset. When in a volunteer organization like the Civil Air Patrol, we don't have the authorities nor the requirement to speak and order our members around in the same fashion. Our rank and positions are not backed by the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so it can't be my way or the highway type of mentality. Chris, what are some of your strengths and weaknesses that you know of? if you're able to chime in. Okay. Okay, you can be brutally honest, right? Yeah, and not everybody as I said, not everybody likes the direct approach method or the sort of abrasive leadership. Not even leadership, just abrasive personalities. It can be off-putting. But they can also be turned to a strength. If you are a very forward spoken person, goal mindset, task driven, then you're also probably the individual that your organization is going to come to get things done. They know they can assign tasks to you, and you're just going to keep attacking the task like a bulldog until the task is completed, or you hit a complete roadblock that you cannot mitigate or find a way around. And sometimes to get tasks done and to get them done efficiently and in a timely manner, you have to be abrasive sometimes. You have to be direct. You have to know exactly what you need to request and make your requirements or request very clear from the beginning without feathering up your language. So it can be a strength and a weakness. The second bullet here, work to improve your weaknesses and utilize your strengths. So both of these require some introspective work where we have to really criticize our actions, criticize our leadership and our personalities, and identify our weaknesses, identify our strengths, but also identify when something that we may see as a weakness can become a strength and when to implement those traits at that time. It's continuous work. So just because we one day identify a weakness and then we don't do anything about it, then we're not really seeking self-improvement. We've identified a flaw and I'm like, okay, I'm good with that. I know it, and I'm going to continue just being me. There's a time and place for that. And even myself, I have to constantly work on being a little bit more diplomatic or talking nicer to individuals to get things done, or to request their help. Or if I see, say, senior members sitting around and not lending a hand when there's tasks to be done during a training event or an activity, I have to stop, collect my senses, and think about what I'm going to say to them instead of just going up, barking at them, and telling them that they're being lazy and they should get up and help. Because not everybody understands the mission, not everybody may understand the requirements and the steps to accomplish the mission. And because we may see, or we may view these tasks as common sense just from our previous experience, other individuals may not have that experience, and it is not common sense to them because they haven't worked through a problem similar to that, or worked on a mission or activity similar to that. So they don't know what they don't know, and that is not a fault of their own. That more becomes a fault on us that have the experience, not doing a good job at mentoring or educating the people around us. All right. Next bullet is seek honest opinions from your subordinates, peers, supervisors to show how to improve your leadership abilities. They also call this 360 evaluations. Corporations are starting to use this where you get evaluated by your peers, by your subordinates, by your superiors. Then you have to turn in a self-evaluation. And then usually the responses are anonymous, and then you get briefed on the whole evaluation process. And you'll see that maybe your subordinates think you're great. You look out for them, you work hard, you stick up for them, but your supervisors may see you as argumentative, abrasive, unable to accomplish tasks without supervision, so they have to provide continuous guidance to you. And then your peers, it may be hit or miss. Some of your peers may evaluate you as being a strong leader and caring for your subordinates and those around you, or others may see you as off-putting, abrasive, lazy. It all depends on the level in which they see your interactions doing the mission or doing the task provided. But we want to actively seek out this guidance. And when you approach your subordinates and ask them for feedback, you have to make it very clear that they're allowed to speak openly, allowed to speak freely. If not, they're just going to give you the normal lip service as, oh, no, things are great. You see this a lot of times when military commanders will get up in front of a formation and ask their units, like, how's the command climate? Like, is there any issues? And everybody's like, no, everything's fine, everything's great. And then all of a sudden they send an anonymous command climate survey out, and then you get a completely different perspective when they are shielded by the anonymity of that survey. And all of a sudden you start finding out that there's like harassment going on, there's hazing incidents going on, there's hostile work environments. So when you sit down and ask your subordinates, usually I would ask them one-on-one, just casual conversation. Don't make it appear that you're actively seeking out this information. Instead, do it in the middle of another conversation and ask for their honest opinion. And you can't get upset when somebody gives you the honest opinion. If they're like, I don't like you, I think you're misguided or something, then okay, thank you for the feedback. Can you explain more of your reasoning to me? Can you give me details? Can you give me suggestions for improving either my leadership style or my communication style, so that way you feel, say, more welcomed or more appreciated, or that you feel that your opinion matters. And then honestly take that information and do something with it, like act on it. Try to make those changes. Same with your peers. The peers, again, there's a different mentality there. So with subordinates, they feel like they have to say what you want. Your peers will hide maybe the truth if you address them, because they just don't want a hostile work environment, or they don't want to help you improve sometimes because there's inter unit or inter organization competition. Not that it's created by you or created by the organization, just some people may feel that they have to compete against you to get recognition. So it may be hit or miss trying to get feedback from your peers, depending on what type of relationship you have with them. I think in a volunteer organization, it's a little bit easier to get feedback from peers, because we're all the same rank, really, in Civil Air Patrol. Yes, we wear rank insignia on our collars, but again, it's not backed by the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It's awarded differently depending on what your background and experience is. But ultimately, we are all volunteers, plain and simple. The organization can't exist without volunteers. So it doesn't matter if you're a senior member or a colonel or above. Your opinion and your well-being matters, but also your influence and leadership still matters, because you can influence a lot that goes on within a volunteer organization. As we're taking Civil Air Patrol as an example here, as a senior member, based on your actions and your leadership. You don't have to have rank on your collar to get something done. There's a lot of people that get the rank because of prior experience and they never do anything else. So you have to take the rank, and still adhere to our customs and courtesies, but you can't let it dictate how loud your voice is, or what your opinion, or that your opinion may or may not matter due to that rank. And you want this feedback from your supervisors as well, because I mean, they may have different type of life experiences and career experiences, but usually if they're in a leadership position within an organization, that means they've been around for a while, they have experience within the organization, they know the ins and outs and the politics and administrative hurdles that you may have to go through to get something done. Take their mentorship, take what they have to say to you about your leadership abilities, and modify them as you see needed. You can also, you're going to look to them for leadership by example from them too. And it doesn't have to be leadership by example, good leadership. You can learn a lot from bad leaders as well. I've had a fair share of really poor commanders out, not in the Civil Air Patrol, but in the Marine Corps, very poor commanders, self-centered, careerist, didn't care about the unit. And I still learned a lot from them. I learned how to get certain things done because, they were career focused. They had a mission that they were working towards. It just didn't align with necessarily with the mission of the unit. But it also showed me the consequences of poor leadership styles and how your position, even if it was backed by the Uniform Code of Military Justice, can be successfully undermined in a way that you cannot do anything if you lose the respect and the following of your unit. Not a complete mutiny, but you can have subordinate leaders step up, and then they end up taking charge of a unit based on your poor leadership skills. That can happen in a volunteer organization as well. So if you fail to perform and you fail to grow as a leader, then somebody will come along and they will outshine you or outperform you, and then you'll be sidelined pretty quickly. And I don't recommend this as being your goal unless you have somebody that is an underperformer or a non-performer in a leadership position. But you have to let your actions speak for themselves. People should be able to look at you as an individual based on your leadership, not what badges you have on your uniform, not what rank you have on your uniform, but by the words and actions that you display and determine what type of leader that you are and if you're competent or not. And that sort of leads into the next bullet of learn by studying the causes for success or failure in other leaders. Like I said, you can have poor leaders and leaders that you don't necessarily respect or you don't like their leadership style, but that it's working with or for them is still a learning opportunity. You can still gain something from this. And I've identified those successful leaders and like what made them successful. What was it about their leadership style? Were they technical experts? Did they just have this persona that just made people want to follow them? Like, what gave them that persona? What did they do to build that? What did they do to get the reputation as a good leader? Or what did they do or not do to get a reputation as a bad leader? And this doesn't have to just be within your organization. To be a good leader, you have to look across the spectrum of politics, of business, community organizations. Through history, you can look at the successes and failures of good and bad leaders and learn something from it. So ultimately, you're becoming a lifelong student of leadership. And we can do that within Civil Air Patrol by taking squadron commander course, group commander course, region commander courses, taking the squadron officer course through the Air Force, distance learning program, or you can sign up for other leadership training through, say, FEMA or any other organization, or search out leadership training and platforms on your own. There are tons of corporations or companies that provide leadership training. A lot of it's very similar to what we're doing here, and a lot of it is very similar to what you'll, if you have military experience or serve in the military, you'll learn there. And the crazy part is we get this training for free within the Civil Air Patrol or the military, I guess, if you want to call it for free. Corporations pay thousands of dollars to bring in a leadership coach and to teach them the exact same principles that we're talking about here. So that this isn't just words and PowerPoint slides and some bearded guy talking to you. This is proven leadership principles that work both or throughout any type of organization. They're just good principles to develop as a leader. Right. Not only the effective speech, but effective writing is something that needs to be mastered. So speaking virtually like this is a little bit harder, at least for me, because I love teaching in front of a college classroom, in front of students, either teaching like associate's degree classes to military members at night, or teaching search and rescue training to a bunch of professional volunteers, or whatever it is. I'm a lot more comfortable and effective in front of students because I can gauge reactions. I can engage the level of interest or engagement that the students may have with a particular training session. And when I start losing them, I can easily find a way and notice that I need to reel them back in, get them re-engaged. And my favorite thing of teaching is seeing the light bulb go off in a student's head, and you can see it on their face when a concept or idea is finally understood. Like they get it, and their face literally changes, and you see that learning has happened. When, as a leader, you have to be able to do that when you get up in front of ground teams or your air crew. Say you're providing a mission briefing, or you're performing a liaison officer mission for an incident command post, and you're talking to all the agency representatives that are there that are trying to support the incident. You need to be able to effectively deliver what the requirement is that you are expecting, or say the incident commander is expecting from these agencies. And then you have to be able to judge the individuals in which you're talking to, their expressions and their words, in order to determine, did they comprehend the task, or are they just randomly nodding at you and like, yep, walk out of the briefing and are like, I have no idea what just happened for the last 45 minutes. Like my brain is mush. Effective writing is even a harder skill. I think effective speech and being able to communicate to a group of individuals and get mission briefs are a much easier task than effective writing. Because you are trying to take, or at least for me, and I have ADHD, so my brain is like always firing at 1,000,000 miles per hour. effective writing is hard because you need to take the concepts, the requirements, the voice inside your head, and you have to apply that to ink or onto digital ones and zeros for email or point paper or a memo. And you need to do it to a way that's another person that's not in your head can read and comprehend what you just put onto paper or what you put into the email or the memo. We have a tendency to write, and when we write, and if we write the way we think, then we negate the fact that our customer or another individual does not have the same background knowledge or conceptual understanding of the topic that we're writing on. So we write assuming that they have the same level of experience, the same background knowledge on the topic as we do, and we end up writing over their heads. Or they may have a lot more experience than us, and we are writing at a level that they may look down upon because they think, because of the tone of our writing, they may believe that we are talking down to them. So effective writing, I highly recommend the best writing book that I've seen for the type of writing that we do here in the Civil Air Patrol, other than like public affairs, is the Tongue and Quill. Yeah, I have to give it to the Air Force. That I've used that over the decade, like last decade that I was in the Marine Corps. One of the best resources for professional writing. I would also recommend looking at technical writing guides. So an ES officer or somebody working in the emergency services field needs to know how to write technical papers and technical manual type documents, because you are trying to give guidance, either building a standard operating procedure or building instruction material to perform technical task. In that scenario, you can write with a level of understanding of technical skill, because you can assume to a point that those reading those types of documents will have a standard level of understanding of the topic. So if you're writing a standard operating procedure for processing drone imagery, well, most of the people that are going to be going through that process are going to be learning the geospatial tool that you're using to process the imagery. They're going to know about the drone. They're going to know some background about the computer systems and stuff that you're running the software on. So you can talk the technical speak at that point. If we're writing a memo recommending changes to policy, we're not going to get as technical until the customer or whoever the recipient is emails back or calls you up and asks for further clarification. You have to write to a point. Oh, what is the saying? Don't write to answer all the questions. You want to write in a way that there are no questions. You write clear and concise enough and cover enough information in that clear and concise documentation that the reader fully comprehends and they understand the intent of the paper without having to come back to you and ask for further clarification. This is hard because it requires us to do multiple edits, even on emails. And this is a hard part for me. Like, I will write an email and then I'll close it as a draft. I'll walk away. I'll go do something else. I'll come back. I'll open that email back up and reread through it, do edits because I've misspelled stuff. I forgot letters. I double typed words. I forgot a whole subject that I wanted to address. Do one or two edits on it, close it, walk away again, come back, do a final draft and send it out. And, you know, I am definitely not perfect. I still make errors, but that third review or second review is 100 times better than my initial hand jammed email that I was typing up before I sent it out. So ultimately, all this boils down to is like the UAS community and pilot communities always like know thine bird or know thine platform. We have to know thine self. We need to be able to look inside, identify those areas that we are not so good at, and be comfortable with identifying, telling ourselves, like, I sort of suck in this area. I need improvement. It doesn't make me a bad person, doesn't make me a bad leader, but I can be better tomorrow if I work on these things today. And again, going back to my way of addressing issues and everything, like a compliment to me is me telling myself that I suck less today. So I'm not as bad today as I was yesterday. I'm never going to be perfect. I may never be good enough to my level of expectations, but I definitely suck less today because I'm putting the work in to get better at the things that I'm not so good at. Hence, like developing this series. The way the world's going, doing online education, virtual education series and lectures is the way of the future. That's not going away anytime soon. I know this is a weakness, so here I am. I'm putting these together to share knowledge and help build our professional volunteer corps within the Civil Air Patrol, focusing here on the emergency services area. Any questions? I'm sure there's not going to be many since we have one participant show up tonight, but I will take any questions that you may have and attempt to answer them. Okay, done. All right, I want to thank you for tuning in, either showing up live for this or tuning in later virtually. There we go. Stop sharing. So we will be posting these. I'm going to look at trying to get to 2 platforms as I update and upload these for viewing after the fact. I will update the spreadsheet for registration and then also send out the link to where the videos are located. And I encourage members within the Civil Air Patrol, if you're watching these afterwards, to respectfully engage with other members and have discussions, because these sessions only work if we're proactive with them. So that means engaging with other members, helping each other grow as emergency services officers or team leaders or branch directors, whatever our goal is, whatever you're working on, whatever your reason for showing up. Unless you actually work at it, we're not going to get better. Also, if anybody has ideas for presentations that they would like to have, or series, topics, special guest, anything like that, please let me know. I will work on either trying to develop the lectures for those webinars or getting guest lecturers to come in and provide those. The next series that we will be doing is developing training and education plans next week. But before we close out, again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. The next in this leadership series, so we covered Know Yourself and Seek Self-Improvement. The next leadership and development topic will be the leadership principle of be technically and tactically proficient. And the date for that is in the spreadsheet. It will be later, I believe in August or early September. So thank you for joining, and I am going to stop recording now.